Hello everyone, welcome back to Sports Today. So, the French Grand Prix, by the way, has just come to an end. And if you are keeping count, by the way, this is going to be, I don't know how many quite DNFs that, Ferrari have had. And remember, Charles Leclerc started the race from pole position. Looked like he might just be on course for a victory, but this time he had another DNF, and this time he can't really blame his team for it. Why? Well, that's because he ended up losing the car, or of course, we don't know the entire details of it yet, but quite frankly, what it looked like at first was that he kind of lost the car, took a spin into the barriers, that's it, race over from what looked like a good lead, at least at that point, or at least a decent lead, because he was able to fight off Verstappen for quite a while. That's it. DNF, no points. Verstappen cruised to a win. If we're talking about boring French Grand Prix, if you're looking at it from just the perspective of, the battle up front, this was definitely boring because again Hamilton, congratulations to Sir Lewis Hamilton. He gets podium finish, second place, his highest finish this season on his 300 Grand Prix start. But let's be fair, that was a podium that was actually gifted to them. But of course, it can't really be a race if we're talking about Ferrari's tactics or lack thereof. And as Sanket Joshi points out, how horrible was Ferrari's strategy today? Well, it was very, very bad because I didn't understand their strategy in terms of once Leclerc is out, you note for a fact that, look, you have to prioritize the one car that's there, right? So when there was that safety car period, they didn't really, they brought, in fact, Sainz was on medium tires. So again, considering how early that safety car was once Leclerc spun, anyone knew that was not going to be going till the end. Medium tires, generally speaking, at that point of the race, remember everyone else went for the hards. And generally speaking, this was a race where you only really saw the one major pit stop for most teams. Ferrari, of course, decided to be Ferrari and out Ferrari themselves, so they put Sainz on the medium tires and then realized that later on, some point at least, you're going to have to call him in, maybe just, give him the soft tires, and then to kind of make things worse, as Sanket is pointing out, that they are asking Sainz to pit just as he's about to overtake Sergio Perez. He's literally having to scream at his engineer saying, no, no, not now, no, no, not now. And I kind of get it. I mean, if I had strategists like that sitting there whilst I'm driving a car 300 kilometers per hour, I'd be miffed too. And see, the end result is that not just that, because they ended up having to delay his pit stop, his inevitable pit stop, and remember he had a 5-second penalty to serve as well. They left him too little time to actually get through the field because again he did a pretty decent job when it came to kind of actually cutting through the field. Because if you look at where he's finished on in 5th position, which is not really bad considering the strategies there. But you can't help but think that if they'd gotten their strategies right, he might have been in competition for a podium today. Instead, as Mercedes have always done this season, picked up the pieces when the top teams have faltered. They end up getting their first double podium finish of the season because Lewis Hamilton was in second. George Russell, who was engaged in quite the tense battle with Sergio Perez for 3rd place, he ended up getting, he ended up getting that overtake done at the end of the late virtual safety car that came about as a result of Zhou Guanyu kind of having to retire. So he got the jump, which, by the way, if you haven't seen that move, I'd highly recommend you go check it out because he faked Perez real nice. So when the safety car period was ending, when they were reaching the start finish line, he kind of, yes, as Sanket points out, that he really was, sleeping because he was kind of waiting. Remember what Russell did was he slowed, he went real back and then got the revs in, and as soon as the safety car ended, the virtual safety car ended, he just went past Checo. Checo fought hard, and in fact, he was even resorting to some gamesmanship by complaining over his team radio that, maybe Russell was going over a certain turn here or there. And, but in the end, he didn't have the lap times or the laps left to get past, Russell in the end. Even though, to be fair, if he had maybe 5 or 6 laps more, you might just have been seeing more of a battle between the two of them. So, but obviously, Max Verstappen, best news for him today that his main rival ended up crashing out and that his, he ended up getting the race win. So he's extended his lead massively. And at this point, if last year's championship battle was an absolute slog, so far it's been proven to be a walk in the park for Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Not only do they have the fastest and most reliable car, but their closest rivals are just handing them wins on a platter. They have an unreliable engine and post strategies. And I'm going to take a few of you guys' comments. So Piyush Plaban says that Hockenheim 2018 vibes when Vettel crashed. Yeah, that was something I was actually pointing out when I saw Leclerc crash. I said it reminded me of exactly that. And this seems like that sort of a moment where, you've kind of lost the title race, because for me, that was just a crash that shouldn't have happened. He was leading the race, he was comfortable, would have ended up, again, would have probably ended up ahead after the pit stops as well, because Verstappen came out quite a bit seconds behind. So, I really don't know what exactly happened there that caused him to lose the race. But to be fair, he did take responsibility, as guys are pointing out. He did take responsibility afterwards and said that, yeah, this is my fault and this shouldn't have happened. He's right, it shouldn't have happened, because in this case, he can't even blame the team. Although the team would have plenty of things to be thinking about when it comes to science's strategy. But of course, that's talk for another day. Let's quickly jam through the rest of the results, then I'll take a few of you guys' comments. So obviously, as I said, Perez in 4th place, Sainz 5th, Fernando Alonso, who he had a pretty decent race, all things considered. He was keeping the McLarens behind him comfortably, finishing 6th place. Norris 7th, Esteban Ocon, who by the way is a local boy, 8th place. 9th was Dan Ricciardo, and 10th was a certain Lance Stroll, who was, kind of screaming down his own engineer's throat after one point, because his engineer was warning him about preserving tires, and he said, yeah, it's okay, leave me alone. A little bit Kimi Raikkonen vibes from there, but that doesn't mean I'm comparing Raikkonen and Stroll, by the way, so don't come after me with that. Anyway, if you're talking about teams that had a bit of a disappointing race, obviously, you had 2 or 3 major retirements. You had Leclerc, obviously, then you had... So again, Guan Yu Zhou retiring yet again, DNF problem there towards the end. Major bit of an issue when it comes to, I think, Zhou has had 5 DNFs so far this season, 6 if you include the sprint race. So again, hardly ideal for his rookie season. He's in a car that's clearly good enough to be competing for points, but they're not really able to do it on a consistent basis because those Ferrari power units are not helping them. Anyway, I think as far as races go, this was as a typical French Grand Prix race in the sense that it wasn't the most interesting. Yeah, there were interesting subpoints, no two ways about it. But again, this is the kind of race that you are kind of expecting to see from the French Grand Prix at Circuit Paul Ricard. So as I've always been saying for a while, bring back Manicours, please. That might just end up giving us a slightly more interesting race. But of course, let's see about that. So I'll just take a few of you guys' questions. As Love Rami says that Leclerc would be disappointed. Kudos to Max, yes, and happy for Hamilton and Mercedes, yeah. 2-3 for Merckx, and on, as I said, Hamilton's 300th Grand Prix start. Ron Shetty says Ferrari and Leclerc just don't deserve to win the championship. Man, if they have strategies like this and they're having to work on their engine halfway through the season, I'm going to agree with you. They really don't deserve to be competing for the, championship at this point. And as Love Rami points out, yes, Ferraris are for pole positions. That's because their engines are very unreliable. It's very powerful, but 9 times out of 10, it just doesn't last. Today, I'm shocked it did last, and, Leclerc's finish can't be blamed on the team, or his DNF can't be blamed on the team. So, it's still bad luck, and I think at this point Ferrari can all but be ruled out of the title race, because again, remember, there's going to be 10 races after the summer break, which will be happening from next week onwards. So they're going to have to really put together something special in that point. As Sanket Joshi points out, yeah, good to see Daniel Ricciardo back in the top 10. Yeah, it is nice to see him back, because again, there were a lot of rumors swirling. He's got a 9th place finish, gets those 2 points. Good on him that he gets that points finish. Also a double points finish for McLaren. To answer your question, 2 questions in fact from Sanket. McLaren haven't renewed Daniel's contract because they have him on a 2-year deal. As far as that deal goes, the option for terminating it lies with Ricciardo. So Ricciardo has said very clearly that he's not going to terminate the deal, so he will be racing at McLaren for the next season as well. To answer your question, to answer your second question, which team do I support? I support Mercedes. In fact, if you go back and see a lot of the old videos which I've done in F1, I'm wearing that black Mercedes t-shirt. So there's your proof. It's literally documented. I don't make too many bones about it. Big Sir Lewis Hamilton fan. And yes, Love Rami, in 1 week's time, we're going to be going to the Hungaroring in Hungary. I love that circuit, by the way. Another one of those traditional circuits that I'm a big fan of. And obviously, I think, that's going to be, I hope it's as exciting a race as it was last year. Remember, Esteban Ocon ended up grabbing a surprise win. Hamilton had that dash through the field later on, and then he had that battle with Alonso as well. Very exciting race last year around. Hopefully, this year's one lives up to that. Whether or not it does, well, we'll only know next week. And don't forget to join us next week onwards, as I will be covering that race as well for you guys. Previews, post qualifying, post race, whatever it is you want, I have it here, and I'll be covering it on Sports Today. So this is the end of this particular video. Thank you all so much for joining us. As always, don't forget to like the video, share it, leave us a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Last but not the least, tap the bell icon so that you know every single time it is we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. As always, I've been Shane Reyes. I'll be joining you again very soon once it is time for the India-West Indies match, mid-innings time. So till then, bye-bye.